Woodruff Papers Project. As historian, she manages document research, as well as overseeing teams verifying documents. And the Wilford Woodruff Papers, which she'll discuss in some detail, began formally in March 2020. And I will let Ellie continue the story.
I'm super grateful for this opportunity, and I'm super grateful for the committee for accepting me to present. And I'd also like to give a thank you to the Wilford Woodruff Papers Foundation and Brigham Young University's Religious Studies Center for the support of my presentation today. In 1875, President Ulysses S. Grant visited Utah Territory. This was a monumental occasion, the first time that a president of the United States had ever visited this territory. President Grant, his wife Julia, and their son Frederick, and his wife Ida were escorted by a welcoming party from the train depot in the city of Ogden to Salt Lake City, where streets were lined with onlookers to witness the arrival of the president and the first lady of the territory. The entourage was brought on a tour to Temple Square, seeing sites such as the newly erected Tabernacle. Julia Grant even paused in the Tabernacle to pray for the people. Later, when the presidential party parted ways with Utah, Fred Grant told George Buchanan, a Latter-day Saint church leader, that if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I don't believe all that is said about the people of Utah. These proceedings were recorded in the Journal of Wilford Woodruff, another prominent leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Apparent from the record that he kept, Woodruff thought it was an important day for Latter-day Saints in the history of Utah. Those that had settled Utah Territory were decades earlier driven as religious refugees from their homes in Missouri and later Nauvoo, Illinois. Under the direction of Leader Brigham Young, they settled the desert region of Utah Territory and turned it into a thriving community. However, the people in Utah, misrepresented by reports in the media, felt solace at the fact that the President of the United States was attempting to bridge the gap in mischaracterization. In a similar way, the editing of historic documents bridges the gap of understanding the people of the past have the people of the present have with the people of the past. Just as relations between Utah Territory and the federal government were not solved by President Grant's visit, all problems of translation between the past and present will not be solved by making documents accessible. Yet, as documents are made available for knowledge, the gap in misunderstanding that is had about the individual of the past can be bridged by bringing new insights and information to light. The Wilford Woodruff Papers Project was founded in 2020 with this purpose, making the writings of Wilford Woodruff accessible on an open access website. As previously stated, Wilford Woodruff was a leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He came from humble beginnings. He was born in Farmington, Connecticut in 1807 and was a miller by trade. He converted to the Latter-day Saint faith in 1833 and moved to its locus, which was in Kirtland, Ohio at the time. Around this time, he also evangelized for the church in the eastern and southern United States, as well as England. Woodruff continued the Latter-day Saints as they settled Nauvoo, Illinois, and made the trek westward across the plains to the Great Basin in present-day Utah. Woodruff served in many leadership positions in the faith, including serving the role of church historian and reporter. He became president of the church in 1887 and served in that role until his death in 1898. Woodruff's record is the only dated journal that spans this period of Latter-day Saint history. His records are deeply personal, but they also provide great insight into the history of the American West, American religious history, and the history of the United States in general. In his journals, Wilford Woodruff left a trail of breadcrumbs totaling the number of letters he sent and received and the number of discourses he delivered. This provides an invaluable list with names, dates, and locations that have made finding records easier. Currently, it's estimated that Wilford Woodruff recorded 140,000 pages of documents and approximately 34,000 survived. The Foundation has found 32,250 of those pages. Once a document is identified and digitized, it is uploaded to the document editing software front page. On front page, the document is transcribed by crowdsourced volunteers and then is verified, hyperlinked, and stylized by trained editorial assistants who follow the guidelines of project editorial method. The Wilford Woodruff Papers Project has seen the possibilities of text being opened by digital tools in 3 different ways. First, the project is fully digital. Second, the project provides an opportunity to train the rising generation of editors. And third, the project makes the text come to life by hyperlinking people, places, and topics to create a digital database. An online platform allows the text to be edited and published, and then interacted globally via the internet connection. All editing work on the project is done remotely, creating a network of skilled documentary editors not bound by limitations of geography. Instead of publishing the Wilford Woodruff Papers in print, the project has decided to to make all its papers accessible digitally. Although the archives that store records like these still and always will remain critical in the preservation of historic documents, those that do not have training in archival research or lack resources such as time would not be able to access the documents and they would remain in the dark. Yet, having projects that make documents digitally accessible allows for the stories of people of the past to be understood and illuminated once again as they are made transparent for the public online. In addition, having a side-by-side view of the original document and the transcription allows the documents to become more easily accessible and understandable. The method of expanded transcription, preserving and rendering the original spelling as accurately as possible, works well for Wilford Woodruff papers because his writing requires more subjective judgment than most. His papers contain several different variations of writing methods, including tailored and Pitman shorthand as well as Desert alphabet, a phonetic system created by those in Utah, which are all translated and marked by phrases in the transcription. As the text is presented in an online platform, it becomes more equitable for those who are and are not trained in ideography, while simultaneously letting the documents speak for themselves and providing an aid to the transcription of documents. Second, the project provides a space for the rising generation of editors. One issue of preserving historic records is getting the public to seek out a vested interest in all that records have to offer, especially those of the rising generation. Recent research has shown that humanities majors in colleges are on the decline. One article written in the Atlantic stated that humanities majors are facing a crisis of confidence. The number of individuals actively choosing to major in the humanities has rapidly declined since its peak in 2007. College students are choosing not to pursue majors in the humanities not because interest in the humanities is decreasing, but because they believe the humanities have poor job prospects. The Wilford Woodruff Papers project offers one solution to the decline of interest in the humanities by employing college interns. 70% of the project staff is under the age of 30. The project incentivizes the rising generation to get actively involved in documentary editing and training them in ideography, providing an opportunity that is not usually afforded without more education or experience. The project utilizes the technological skills that the rising generation naturally possesses, allowing them to propel forward in creative ways. The benefit is inspiring the rising generation to become actively involved in the art of preserving history while preparing editors with the skills that they need in the future. Third, the project makes the text come to life by hyperlinking people, places, and topics, creating a digital database that connects all the data and contextualizes it in the 19th century. Each person, as mentioned in Wilford Woodruff Papers, is identified by the project's research team of skilled genealogists, and then a biographical sketch is added to its website. This makes them more personal and accessible in the context of the documents. Research has been completed for 9,000 out of 14,000 individuals in Wilford Woodruff records. In addition, the project has partnered with Family Search, a non-profit genealogical platform, to connect the people found in the papers to Family Search's genealogical records and notify their living relatives where their ancestors' information is found in Wilford Woodruff's documents. Each place mentioned in Wilford Woodruff's records is also identified in hyperlink within its historical context and location geographically by longitude and latitude. A data science intern who worked with the project created this mapping feature based on this research data and location information. The mapping of locations mentioned within the text provides additional historic and geographic context to papers. Along people and places, topics are also identified and hyperlinked. Hyperlinking from topics allows users to search the papers by concept and not just by word. The website index includes 250 main topics that are connected to 1,200 subtopics. This makes detailed research and understanding of the papers easier. Although the original spelling is preserved in the transcription, hyperlinking allows the documents to be searched according to modern spelling. Contextualization is also achieved with the incorporation of events in Wilford Woodruff's life into an interactive timeline with important dates for Latter-day Saint history as well as American history. Digital tools like these help accelerate the editing process and at the same time provide researchers the ability to place the documents in the proper historical context. The combination of a fully digital project incorporating the skills of the rising generation of editors and hyperlinking the data within the documents has allowed the text to become immersive and interactive. For example, the history of Utah through the Wilford Woodruff Papers is placed in context of American history. After Ulysses S. Grant made his visit to Utah in 1875, Utah's struggle for statehood intensified. The 1880s proved to be a turbulent time for Latter-day Saints, with many federal laws being passed against what they believed was their free exercise of their religion. A search on the Wilford Woodruff Papers website reveals intimate details surrounding Latter-day Saints and politicians that allied with their cause as they vied for statehood. and Latter-day Saint leaders, relations between the two began to improve. The progress being made is described in a letter from James S. Clarkson to Woodruff. Clarkson, twice chairman of the Republican National Committee and Iowa paper news editor, was an ally to Latter-day Saints in Congress and actively advocated for Utah's statehood. On July 11, 1894, Clarkson wrote a letter to Wilford Woodruff expressing his relief about the passage of the Enabling Act in Congress that outlines Utah's steps to statehood, as well as commiserating with the people in Utah on their long wait to join the Union. Clarkson stated that from his outsider perspective, he had seen their hardships. In my observation of your people and my analysis of their character, I should judge they are peculiarly endowed with qualities of appreciation and gratitude. It has been a long and bitter school in which they have been taught the value of friendship and the withering, bitter, unrelenting force of enmity. It is difficult even now to see, as in a few years it will be impossible for any fair man to see, how remorselessly and persistently prejudice and malice have followed you and your people in the crusade of over a generation against you. Clarkson's friendship to Latter-day Saint faith and citizens of Utah Territory serves as a reminder of how it humanizes people when effort is made to learn about them. Documentary editing, in combination with digital tools, provides the public with the resources they need to make a similar connection. In 1895, the Utah Constitution was ratified and President Grover Cleveland officially proclaimed Utah the 45th state on January 4, 1896. January 6 was declared as Statehood Day. Woodruff's journal gives perspective into the attitudes and opinions of those in Utah on this day. This is a great day in Utah, and it was the celebration of the mission of Utah into the Union equal to any state in the Union. This day was celebrated as no other day in Utah. There was a procession out down the streets of Salt Lake City, and Heber and Wells was sworn as governor in the Tabernacle underneath the patriotic display of the American flag featuring 45 stars. Woodruff concluded his daily entry referring to many years of hard labor that occurred to reach this point of statehood. But praise be to the Lord, it is accomplished. Neither the devil nor wicked men has had power to stop it. I am thankful that I have lived to behold Utah's state government. The story of Utah's mission to the United States and others like it illuminate the rich history found in Wilford Woodruff papers. The fully digital project and accessibility of Wilford Woodruff's records allows technology to be used as a tool to centralize and connect historic records together. The goal of the Wilford Woodruff Papers project to digitally preserve his records and make them universally accessible has resulted in an interactive multimodal website. Hyperlinking allows readers to be immersed in the papers as people, places, and topics make contextualizing the documents easier. The project's digital editorial process and online publication means it can be edited and accessed with just an internet connection. As a result, the rising generation is playing an active role in documentary editing and are learning the essential skills that will propel them in documentary editing into the future. As Woodruff records are made more accessible to the public, they can learn to be immersed in the role of the 19th century, closing the gap in mischaracterization and misunderstanding of those in the past. In one of Wilford Woodruff's discourses, he related his instinctual and high regard for keeping a record. Get journals, and if not ink, get a pencil and begin to keep a journal. Write a little every day. It'll be worth gold to you someday. Historic records like Wilford Woodruff's are worth more than gold with their ability to connect people of the past with the people of the present. With transcribed records like Wilford Woodruff's